Hello and welcome. Tonight, court sentences Nnamdi Kanu to life imprisonment on terrorism charges and orders that he be kept in protective custody anywhere in the country. Barely 48 hours after the attack on Eruku, bandits attack another community in Kwara State, abducting 4 rice farmers. United States Congress holds public hearing on President Trump's redesignation of Nigeria as a country of particular concern. And President Volodymyr Zelensky is set to speak with President Donald Trump after the United States presented Ukraine with a draft peace plan aimed at ending the war with Russia.
On business news, Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu signs 14.81 billion naira 5-year bond agreement with local and foreign partners to strengthen the subnational economy.
On sports news tonight, FIFA announces draw for the 2026 World Cup Inter-Confederation Playoff in Zurich.
And from the nation's capital, FCT Police Command falls kidnapping attempt in Guto village, a border community in Buhari Area Council of Abuja.
We begin tonight in Kwara State, where terrorists have launched yet another attack, abducting 4 rice farmers in Bukungi village in Edo local government area of the state, barely 24 hours after gunmen invaded a church in Eruku in Ekiti local government area of the state. The latest incident occurred on Wednesday evening while the victims were working on their rice farms at the peak of the harvest season. Well, according to a source in the community, the attackers, who arrived suddenly, surrounded the farmers and operated for several minutes without resistance before whisking the farmers away. Members of the community say that rising insecurity in Edo local government area has left several farming settlements deserted, as farmers are most vulnerable on the fields during the harvest season. Meanwhile, President Bola Tinubu has directed the Minister of State for Defense, Bello Matawalle, to relocate to Kebbi State over the abduction of 24 secondary school girls in the state. A statement by the Special Advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Mr. Bayo Ononuga, says the President asked Mr. Matawalle to remain in Kebbi State to monitor security efforts and secure the release of the abducted students. On Monday this week, gunmen abducted 24 students of Government Girls Comprehensive Secondary School in Magatown in Kebbi State at around 4 a.m. The president had postponed his scheduled trip to Johannesburg, South Africa, and Luanda in Angola, insisting he will await further briefings on the kidnapped Kebbi schoolgirls and the attack on the Christ Apostolic Church worshippers in Eruku, Kwara State. According to that statement, Mr. Matawalle, who was once a governor of Zamfara State, gained some experience in dealing with banditry and mass kidnapping during his tenure. The minister is expected to arrive in Birnin, Kebbi on Friday, November the 21st, 2025. We head to the courts now, where the Federal High Court Abuja has sentenced the leader of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, to life imprisonment after his conviction on charges of terrorism. Delivering judgment, the trial judge, Justice James Omotosho, sentenced him to life imprisonment in relation to counts 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6 of the 7-count charge in which he was persecuted by the Department of State Services.
Heavy security presence outside the Federal High Court, Abuja, is indicative of the magnitude of the case at hand. Inside the court, years of legal battle is culminating to the judgment in the trial of the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu. The defendant is in the court with his friends and family ahead of the commencement of the proceeding. At the beginning of the hearing, the judge dismissed 3 fresh motions filed by Kanu for lacking merit. Kanu had argued that the court could not proceed with the judgment for the day because he was yet to file his final written address. Things quickly degenerated as Kanu accused the judge of being biased, claiming that he did not know the law.
This is a court of law. I'm under trial. I'm under trial. I have to speak. I'm under trial and I have to speak. Listen to me. Listen to me, please. I'm under trial. I'm under trial.
Please use the microphone.
I'm under trial. And I must address the court. Wait. No, listen to me. Please. The judge must listen to me. No, wait. Wait. I'm asking a very simple question. No, wait. Please, look, this is the Supreme Court. Wait, hold on. This Supreme Court here. Hold on a second. I said, hold on. May you please your lordship?
Following the outburst, Justice Omotosho ordered his removal from the courtroom and subsequently suspended the proceeding for a while.
Any judgment, let it be on record. Any judgment in this court is rubbish. Ask him where is the law. Ask Omotosho, where is the law?
They resumed the hearing after the recess, which lasted less than 5 minutes. The trial judge continued the judgment with Kanu in absentia.
Since 2015, I hold without hesitation.
The judge held that the threats of violence and killings, including the declaration of sit at home in Nigeria's southeast region in the defendant's broadcasts, constituted acts of terrorism. He was subsequently found guilty and convicted on counts 1 and 2.
I called my noble lord M.L. Gabak, JSC.
He was also found guilty and convicted for belonging to IPOB, which had been proscribed, and its affiliate, the Eastern Security Network.
They are disengaged to act as legal consultants.
Justice Omotosho held that his many broadcasts incited his followers to violence, which resulted in the killing of security personnel and the destruction of properties, including police stations.
The defendant was not on the manifest.
While convicting Kanu on all the 7 counts charges, the judge held that the prosecution had sufficient credible evidence to establish a case against him. He added that the court had no option than to believe the evidence of the prosecution, since the defendant failed to enter his defense but chose to gamble by resting his case on that of the prosecution.
This, in the case of Federal Republic of Nigeria versus Inland.
Before the sentencing, the prosecution counsel asked the court to pass a death sentence on the defendant.
Prescribed for the offenses in counts 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6 is death penalty.
However, a member of the House of Representatives pleaded for clemency.
I plead for mercy. I plead for clemency, and I appeal for peace and for stability of not just the Southeast, but as well as Nigeria.
The justice subsequently sentenced him to life imprisonment on counts 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6.
There are instances where a person commits.
He was sentenced to 20 years imprisonment without an option of fine for count 3, which relates to the offense of belonging to a proscribed terrorist group.
Restrictions, authorizations.
For count 7, which borders on his unlawful importation of a radio transmitter for the purpose of furthering the activities of Radio Biafra, which was not registered in Nigeria, the judge sentenced him to 5 years imprisonment without an option of fine.
Power and authority or jurisdiction on court.
The judge noted that Kanu had been unruly all through the trial and said the law allowed the courts to sentence him to death for the terrorism offenses. But being a Christian, he chose to be merciful to the defendant.
By pronouncement, take away.
Justice James Omotosho further ordered that Nnamdi Kanu be kept in a protective custody in any part of the country, but not in Kuje Prison, Abuja, and that the radio transmitter be forfeited to the federal government.
Meanwhile, reactions have trailed the sentence of the life imprisonment handed to the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu. While the prosecution counsel applauds the court's verdict, the defense has vowed to appeal the judgment in all superior courts. Our correspondent Emanuela Ekele reports.
The trial of Nnamdi Kanu marks a major point in the administration of criminal justice, and the prolonged legal battle comes to a head, at least for now, following the delivery of the judgment by the Federal High Court. The prosecution counsel considers the judgment as a lesson for anybody who is causing trouble in the country, maintaining that nobody is greater than the nation.
Today, for seeing the end of this, and let it be a warning to those who may think they are bigger than Nigeria. Nigeria is bigger than every one of us. The law is bigger than every one of us. And the law will take its course to deal with miscreants, to deal with terrorists, to deal with criminals. You know, all of us are victims when we keep quiet. All of us are victims when we don't do what we ought to do. Therefore, let everybody be a Nigerian.
The defendant plans to appeal the judgment and urges the authorities to make Kanu accessible for the filing of the appeal, while calling for calm among his supporters.
From here, we are heading to the Court of Appeal. The Court of Appeal is the only court in this country, or the next court in this country, that sits as a jury. We are going to approach the justices there to check out what happened in court today. And we are pretty sure the justices will agree with us that today was the symbol of the travesty of justice that everybody has been suspecting all along. If the Court of Appeal disagrees with us, we head to the Supreme Court. But by God Almighty, Mazin Nnamdi Kanu is not going to stand convicted. Not at all. Is going to get overturned.
I also want to plead with judiciary. Nnamdi Kanu is representing himself because the court has given the prosecution a blanket order to detain Mazin Nnamdi Kanu wherever they want. They should detain Mazin Nnamdi Kanu where you have access to file his appeal, because he has 90 days to file his appeal. And the judge said that the judgment will be ready in the next 15 minutes.
For now, many are expecting to know the protective custody where he would be kept. Emanuela Ekele, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, let's go back to Kebbi State, where the abduction of the schoolgirls has prompted the visit by the Progressive Governors Forum to Governor Nasir Idris of Kebbi State to commiserate with the government and the people. Led by the chairman of the forum, Governor Hope Uzodimma of Imo State, the forum has reaffirmed support for President Bola Tinubu in the fight against banditry, terrorism, and other forms of criminality across the country, and it remains committed to defending the nation's democracy.
We're here in solidarity to condole with you. We received with shock the news, the tragic news of the incident that happened in Zulu, how the school was attacked, and prayerfully we decided to come to identify with you. In the past, we've had high schools were attacked, shooting in schools, not in Africa, not in Nigeria. But unfortunately, we didn't know that this dastard act of inhumanity will be extended to Africa, indeed Nigeria, and in particular to Kebbi State. We're here to condemn the act. We're here to assure you that we, our brothers, will join you in unity, standing behind Mr. President, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, our security agencies, to ensure that national security is strengthened, and this ugly incident of loss of lives here and there, insecurity, must be tamed. We, the governors, resolved a few days ago to queue behind Mr. President in unity, to do whatever it will take to strengthen security in Nigeria and ensure that our democracy is sustained.
In part two, after the break, we'll bring you proceedings from the U.S. public hearing on the security situation in Nigeria. Plus, FCT Police Command foils kidnapping attempt in Guto Village, the border community in Buhari Area Council in the nation's capital. Please join us again. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, broadcasting live from Lagos. A reminder of our main stories. Court sentences Nnamdi Kanu to life imprisonment on terrorism charges and orders that he be kept in protective custody anywhere in the country. Barely 48 hours after the attack on Eruku community, bandits attack another community in Kwara, abducting 4 rice farmers. United States Congress holds public hearing on President Trump's redesignation of Nigeria as a country of particular concern. And President Volodymyr Zelensky is set to speak with President Trump after the United States presented Ukraine with a draft peace plan aimed at ending the war with Russia. Beyond identifying Nigeria as a country of particular concern, the U.S. Congress Subcommittee on Africa today held a high-stake hearing on President Donald Trump's redesignation of Nigeria. Witnesses provided insights into the serious insecurity situation facing the country, as testimonies were taken from the Nigerian Catholic bishop, civil society groups, and a survivor of one of the incidents in Benue State, Nigeria's north-central region.
Hearing focused exclusively on Nigeria.
Today's sitting of the U.S. Congress Subcommittee on Africa gave an opportunity to discuss the several attacks by the terrorist groups in different communities in Nigeria.
I want to thank our distinguished witnesses for being here today to bring light and scrutiny to this unfolding religious freedom catastrophe and to proffer ways to mitigate and to end the violence and the hate.
The most touching ones are from the Middle Belt, where a Catholic bishop narrates the attacks by terrorist groups.
Thousands more have been displaced, some adopted or subjected, with entire villages razed and churches destroyed. My own village of Aondana in Gwe West local government was attacked and several of my relatives killed on May 22nd, 2025. An entire convent of Reverend Sisters of the Clarisha Missionary was displaced, along with the local Catholic parish. Within the days following that attack, nearby villages like Naka also witnessed attacks. In fact, on the 24th May 2025, one of my priests, Father Solomon Atongu, was shot and left to die in the pool of his blood.
The committee acknowledges that it's not only Christians that are under attack, as even the Muslim community is not spared.
Nigeria is facing multiple different security challenges in various parts of the country, including violent extremist groups in the northeast, criminal banditry in the northwest, and across the country, farmer-herder conflict in the Middle Belt, and other intercommunal violence in central and northern regions. Several factors are driving these conflicts. Yes, ethnicity and religion play a role in some cases, but other dynamics like poor governance, resource competition, climate change, and population pressures are important drivers that need to be addressed.
The lack of response has created an atmosphere of impunity where Christians continue to live in constant threat and fear.
In his testimony to the committee, Jonathan Pratt, former U.S. ambassador to Djibouti, describes the situation as complex, insisting on a more focused approach to the issues.
Terrorists, separatists, bandits, and criminal militias in Nigeria wreak havoc throughout the country, with ongoing attacks often deliberately targeting Christian communities. In addition to the violent Islamic extremism and banditry experienced in Nigeria's Middle Belt, there has been a surge in violent attacks across northern Nigeria by violent extremist organizations like ISIS West Africa, ISIS Sahel, Boko Haram, Jainim, and Al-Qaeda affiliate Ansaru, and Lakurawa. The ongoing violence is a problem of prioritization for the government of Nigeria. Although its military and police are engaged and taking significant losses in their counterterrorism efforts in the Northeast, the Nigerian government has not done enough to effectively combat violence in the Middle Belt.
This is certainly not a good time for Nigeria, but some of the members of Congress say they are optimistic on the way forward for the country.
Aid is important, and this should be for the victims of Fulani herder militia attacks, and this should be distributed through trusted local providers, including through the churches on the ground that are currently one of the main aid providers to the survivors of these attacks. And it's just, again, tragic and ironic that productive farmers now need food aid since they have been driven from their Middle Belt farms. 4, sanctions against those aiding, abetting, and granting impunity to the Fulani herding militias, including those sanctions should include high-level officials in the criminal justice system and the military. The U.S. should gather intelligence regarding official responses to the Fulani herder militias and review possible visa and Magnitsky sanctions for those aiding and abetting. The Fulani warlords' names are known or knowable. Out of all the, I think it's important to understand that out of all the violent attacks by Fulani herder militias, there have been only a few arrests.
I expect, as we're cooperating with the government of Nigeria on what those tools will be, if there is specific U.S. government programs or assistance that will require a waiver, and through agreement in our cooperative relationship with the government of Nigeria on what will be effective and successful, that we may need to seek waivers for some programs.
Strengthening the military and reforming the institutional weaknesses in Nigeria will indeed serve as a guarantee to the U.S. Congress and the government that Nigeria is serious about tackling the issue of insecurity, albeit Nigeria needs help.
And still on the U.S. Congress public hearing today in Washington, D.C., one of the witnesses, who is a director and senior fellow of the African Program Center for Strategic and International Studies, Oge Onobogo, also advised on actions to be taken by the U.S. government to help tackle violent extremism in Nigeria. She has asked the U.S. government to engage deeply with communities across Nigeria to avoid selective intervention and address the concerns of Nigerians. She also argues that unilateral military action by the U.S. could endanger Christians and worsen the division along religious lines.
First, to the United States government, it's important to engage deeply and broadly with communities across Nigeria. The U.S. can play a constructive role, but it must avoid selective intervention and address the concerns of all Nigerians across all religions to prevent worsening sectarian divisions. 2, it's important to rethink reactive quick-win actions that may seem beneficial to Nigerians, but could have larger and far-reaching negative impacts. If the Trump administration proceeds with unilateral military action in Nigeria, it could endanger the Christians it aims to protect and worsens divisions along religious lines. Now, recommendations for the Nigerian government. It is important to appoint a Nigerian ambassador to the United States to improve its international engagement and manage narratives about its security realities. It's critical for President Tinubu to appoint a capable Nigerian ambassador to the U.S., as I also recommended in my testimony in March. Second, the Nigerian government needs to make accountability of both perpetrators and of the authorities central to the response. Nigerian citizens need justice, as criminality in the Middle Belt has increased due to impunity. The narrative of Christian genocide has gained traction because of years of mass killings without accountability, leaving many faith communities feeling abandoned. Third, Nigerian government needs to get serious about police reform. Nigeria's single federalized police force struggles to address the country's complex security challenges.
Let's shift gears now. We head over to the nation's capital, Abuja, where Millicent Walker is standing by to bring us more stories. Hello, Millicent.
Hi, Anne. Many thanks. We begin with security here. The FCT Police Command has foiled a kidnapping attempt in Guto Village, a border community in Buari Area Council of the nation's capital, in the early hours of Wednesday, November 20th, 2025. A statement signed by the police public relations officer, Josephine Ade, says that at about 1:10 a.m., the command received a distress call reporting that heavily armed criminals numbering about 30 had invaded the community with the intent to abduct a resident and members of his family. The statement explains that in a swift and coordinated response, operatives of Buari Division surveillance team and the IGP Special Intervention Squad deployed to the area and neutralized the attackers who had already attempted to forcefully enter the targeted residence. Away from security, the Coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Professor Mohammed Ali Pate, says Nigeria is recording visible progress in its journey towards universal health coverage. He believes that the federal and state governments can work together to reform the national health system. He was speaking at the opening ceremony of the 66th regular session of the National Council on Health in Calabar, the Cross River State capital.
Move towards a sector-wide approach to improve population health outcomes, to improve the governance of the health sector, to improve the health system so that it delivers efficiently, effectively, and at the quality that is needed, so that the health outcomes of our population improves through the primary healthcare system, through expanding health insurance affordability, supply chains, through revamping our hospitals and our human resources. This 2-year milestone and this particular Council on Health is building on that work that we have collectively done together. I'm pleased to say that there is progress that is being felt by Nigerians for the work that we have done collectively with you. My colleague has laid important positive things that have happened in the intervening period. At the joint annual review last week, we noticed that in fact 17% reduction in maternal mortality in Mami local government. At least we're changing the trajectory. Neonatal mortality beginning to improve, access improving, quality remaining high, the confidence of Nigerians in the health sector going up. That is precisely why President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, in fact, unveiled his health sector renewal investment initiative in December 2023, so that we do precisely that under his leadership.
Still ahead on the news at 10, Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu signs 14.81 billion naira 5-year bond agreement with local and foreign partners to strengthen the subnational economy. That's coming up in Business News. Please join us again.
Welcome back. You're still watching the news at 10 on Channels Television. The company news now. Emadeb Petroleum Exploration and Production, an indigenous company, has achieved its first oil at the Ibom field, PPL 236. This feat, which comes after 2 years of intensive exploration and production campaign, has become the latest addition to Nigeria's hydrocarbon potential. The chairman of Emadeb Energy Group, Mr. Debo Olujimi, says as the company plans to a second phase to drill 2 additional wells expected to triple production by the fourth quarter of 2026.
It all started here, where the Petroleum Prospective License approvals were issued to those who bidded and won the marginal oil field rounds of 2020. But beyond this paperwork lay the actual work of drilling for oil by moving to the allotted offshore location, and you have to go and find this oil beneath this large body of water, essentially moving from this to this. To start, the licensee, Emadeb Petroleum Exploration and Production Company, has deployed this jackup rig for the well drilling barely a year after the Abuja paper presentation. So very early from that event in 2022, Channels Television took up the challenge to follow up with one of these bid winners and touched down on the fields of operations. From the work plan, a new well will be drilled on this oil field, and it begins with a process called spodding. In a layman's term, groundbreaking. But here you will pierce the seabed, which is the process of driving these drill bits into the earth for the first time, signaling the commencement of oil find.
So this is a 26-inch mill tooth bit. This is just one size of bit that goes through that hole. All of this is made up to this, and we make them up one after the other. As we make up, we drill that stand down, we circulate, it has got holes underneath it, so that when we are pumping the mud I told you about, it comes in through, comes out here, cools all of this, because you want to reduce friction. You understand? Yeah. Because if you do not reduce friction, these guys are going to wear off very quickly. So you want to reduce friction, which is one of the key things that your mud does.
There's no better way to start drilling than to secure the backing of the one who made the waters like they did for every step.
We therefore dedicate this today in the name of God the Father, God the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
From then, it's been several man-hours which culminated to the well being spodded on July 28, 2023.
The well has just been spodded at Ibom 3 on about 16:36 hours of 28th of July 2023. Thank you, guys. Ibom 3.
Drilling continued afterwards into depths of over 500 feet that will lead to oil being brought to surface.
You will notice that we have a dual well, meaning that we are using a single well to target two reservoirs. What that does is that it reduces our development cost and gives us the ability to produce more.
It's been 2 years since the commencement of this exploration and production, and could have been longer if you factor crude evacuation modalities. A strategy had to be engaged for the evacuation of crude, since building a long stretch of subsea pipelines was out of the way for now. That strategy meant additional capex by contacting various fabrication yards in Port Harcourt, River State, to build a unique mooring system to hold an evacuation vessel in place, construct a sinker to hold it.
Thank you. What is this they brought in?
Jury! Construct anchors, chains that are equivalent in length to the depth of sea, a buoy. Additionally, purchase crude export hose that are 8 inches in diameter and that has the right pressure rating and strength to withstand sea conditions. That is collecting the crude from back to the oil fields. Those items fabricated in Port Harcourt has been deployed, mooring effectively this FSO vessel called the Bedford.
This is an investment that needs to be encouraged, and it's going to drive the economy. So look at how beautiful this old water is and how rich this country is. I mean, from here, Nigeria can go to be counted among the top nations in the world.
Day and night, Nigerians and their service companies have been working on this oil production badge. Collectively, from July 2023, it's been over 2 years of tedious work, expenditure, and execution. Today, in the final push, as Bedford Sales of Emada Petroleum Exploration and Production Company has successfully produced its first oil. Olu Phillips, Channels Television News.
Bridging Nigeria's economic growth gap is a task that must be accomplished, and this call remains one of the International Breweries PLC's focus as it holds the 10th edition of Kickstart Entrepreneurship Awards in Lagos. The keynote speaker and former Vice President of Nigeria, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, emphasized that the nation can only experience economic regeneration through the support of entrepreneurship.
For the past 10 years, International Breweries PLC has equipped and empowered young Nigerians aged 18 to 35 through its foundation, the Kickstart Entrepreneurship Training and Awards. The event is being used by the company to honor their resilience and celebrate their achievements.
Kickstart has evolved significantly over the years, not just in scale, but in depth, design, and impact. From a regional grant-giving program in about 6 states, it is now a full entrepreneurial development engine that spans the length and breadth of Nigeria.
In his keynote address, former Vice President of Nigeria, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, points out the importance of resilience in entrepreneurship and its contribution to the economic life of a nation.
The hardest courage is not the courage to start. It is the courage to remain. It is not the courage to dream. It is the courage to face the nightmares and still continue until you achieve and sustain your goal.
International Breweries PLC says it will continue to invest in young Nigerians through the Kickstart Entrepreneurship Awards.
We do due diligence on them even before we give them capital. And when we do, we still mentor and we follow them up. That way, we are sure that they are surviving.
We're investing heavily in Nigeria, not only on the program of Kickstart, but in Nigeria as a whole, because we really believe that this is a place that will grow, that has an optimistic future, and that we can grow here together with our communities.
In addition to trainings and recognition of participants, the company also provides funds for them to succeed.
In the past 10 years, we've been able to train over 3,000 young entrepreneurs, and we've invested over 800 million naira.
It is a fantastic testimony to the level of work that goes into preparing the businesses, and also, of course, the resilience, the hard work of all the businesses.
I am very grateful and honored to have been selected for this award. It shows how much work we have done and how much impact we have made in our community to be recognized enough to be given this award.
The Kickstart journey continues to demonstrate that Nigerian youth are the facilitators of inclusive growth, which is why International Breweries PLC, through its foundation, continues to invest in the initiatives where young people can sustain their dreams.
Let's join Dominic Iwiwu for more stories from the world of business.
Thank you, Anne. And on business news, the Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu has signed the 14.815 billion naira 5-year Series 3 Green Bond and the 230 billion naira 10-year Series 4 bond under the 11 trillion naira debt and hybrid instruments issuance program. Governor Sanwo-Olu, who signed the bond contract with local and foreign partners, says proceeds from the bond will be channeled to transportation, environment, healthcare, education, and sustainable urban development, among others. According to the governor, this is the largest ever sub-national green bond issuance in Nigeria and sub-Saharan Africa.
Having issued the first Sukuk, our Series 2 issuance under this program, we've recorded another feat. Lagos State now issued the first ever green bond by any subnational in the country. We're set to raise a total of 14.815 billion, and at the conclusion of the book build, we received a bid totaling 29.29 billion, of which 27.79 billion fell within our price guidance. And so the Green Bond highlights our vision on environmental responsibility, which is part of the second pillar under our Teams Plus agenda. And so the allotment of 14.815 billion Green Bond, we believe, is a clear testament of our commitment to a sustainable development, environmental protection and preservation, and climate resilience. This is not just a financial transaction. It is a global statement of confidence in Lagos, the future, and the testament to our shared commitment to a sustainable development.
Now, the central bank has called for deeper alignment between monetary and fiscal authorities to strengthen the country's financial system and sustain ongoing macroeconomic gains. CBN's Deputy Governor, Corporate Services, Usoro, who made the call at an event in Lagos, explained that the move for enhanced coordination has become even more important as Nigeria continues to consolidate progresses recorded from recent reforms. She pointed out that the CBN's recent monetary policy actions are already yielding positive results, particularly in lowering lending rates and easing financial pressure on businesses and households. Now, Nigeria's pension industry total assets rose to 26.09 trillion naira in September as it maintains its upward trajectory. According to the latest report released by the National Pension Commission, PENCOM, the figure represents 0.75% month-on-month increase from the 25.90 trillion naira total assets recorded in August and a strong 23.44% surge year-on-year. PENCOM says that continued growth in the pension assets underscores sustained investor confidence despite mixed capital market conditions, as contributor registration under the contributory pension scheme also inched upwards, growing 0.42% to 10.93 million. And back home, the domestic stock market ended today's trading session still with downbeat sentiment. Ini John Mekwa has the details.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Stock Market Report. Well, for the fourth consecutive trading session, Nigeria's stock market closed in the red again today. Today, investors took away 292 billion naira, and that leaves the market cap at 91.710 trillion naira. So while the all-share index is still on the 144,000 level, it shaved off 0.32% at the close of trade, mostly because of activities around the FUGA. So just two of the FUGAs escaped profit-taking today, but the other three, UBA, GTCO, and Accessco, they had a lot of profit-taking, and of course, that brought that down. And we can see that in the counter, the banking counter for today was in the red, closed in the red, more than 1%, 1.06%. Consumer goods is also down, and international breweries mostly did that. And then for oil and gas, O&O and Japan Gold also saw a lot of profit taking, so it's down 0.4%. So for the fourth time, all through this week, we've been seeing the bear, and it's the bear again for today.
Thank you, Ini. We end business news with snapshots of global stock market closing figures for Thursday. And that's it on business news. Back to Anne for the rest of the news at 10.
Thank Thank you, Dominic. Outside our shores, President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, will speak to President Donald Trump. And that's after the U.S. presented Ukraine with a draft peace plan to end the war with Russia. Now, that plan was reportedly drafted by U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and his Russian counterpart, Kirill Dmitriev, without Ukraine's involvement. Let's now join Simon Pusey with more on this and other international news and around the world in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. The US military says senior Pentagon officials have arrived in Ukraine to discuss efforts to end the war with Russia. The team, led by US Army Secretary Dan Driscoll, held talks with Ukrainian Prime Minister on Thursday morning. Reports began surfacing on Wednesday that the US and Russia had prepared a new proposed framework to end the war, requiring major concessions from Ukraine, including giving up territory and dramatically shrinking its military. Neither Washington nor Moscow have officially confirmed the plan. US President Donald Trump says he has approved a bill that orders the release of government files on the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. In a post, he said, "Perhaps the truth about the Democrats and their associations with Jeffrey Epstein will soon be revealed because I have just signed the bill to release all the Epstein files." The Justice Department now has 30 days to publicly share all information from federal investigations into Epstein. However, it can withhold files that relate to active criminal investigations or are deemed to invade personal privacy. At least 25 Palestinians have been killed in Israeli strikes across the Gaza Strip, and that's according to the Hamas-run health ministry, in what was one of the deadliest days since the ceasefire came into effect 5 weeks ago. 10 people were killed when a Ministry of Religious Endowments building in the eastern Zayton neighborhood of Gaza City was hit. Israel's military said it struck Hamas terrorist targets after gunmen opened fire towards an area where its soldiers were operating in the southern city of Khan Yunis in violation of the ceasefire. Hamas questioned the claim and denounced what it said was a dangerous escalation. Police in Mexico have arrested a man they accuse of being the mastermind behind the murder of a popular mayor. The mayor of Uruapan, Carlos Manzo, was shot dead on the 1st of November at a public event marking the Day of the Dead. Manzo was an outspoken critic of cartel violence in his home state, and his assassination triggered mass protests. Mexico's security minister said the man suspected of ordering his murder had links to a powerful cartel. 35 people and 3 institutions have gone on trial in North Macedonia over a devastating fire at a nightclub that killed 63 people, mainly young people, in March. Club Pulse in the east of the country was packed with young Macedonians attending a concert by a popular hip-hop duo when sparks from pyrotechnic devices set fire to the ceiling. Prosecutors told the trial that years of failings had turned the club into a death trap. A huge fire has broken out in the city of Oita on the Japanese island of Kyushu, damaging at least 170 buildings and forcing residents to evacuate. Aerial footage showed the scale of the blaze, said to be the size of 7 football fields, that burned through several residential buildings near a fishing port. It is Japan's largest urban fire since 1976, excluding incidents caused by earthquakes. One of the world's first calculating machines will not go to auction as scheduled in France after a Paris court provisionally blocked the historic item from being exported. Auction house Christie's has confirmed it will not proceed with bidding for the machine, La Pascaline, developed by the French mathematician Blaise Pascal in 1642. Valuations suggested the machine could fetch between 2 to 3 million euros, and Christie's called it the most important scientific instrument ever offered at auction. And it's been revealed that a gold toilet that was sold for $12 million at auction was bought by Ripley's Believe It or Not after its first casting was stolen from Blenheim Palace in 2019. Created by the Italian conceptual artist Maurizio Catalan, it is a fully functional toilet made from more than 15 stone of solid 18-karat gold. Ripley's Believe It or Not revealed themselves as the mystery buyer, writing, "We're flush with excitement." The entertainment company runs attractions including museums of oddities and aquariums around the world. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel Studios in Lagos.
Thank you, Simon. Welcome to Sports News. The world's football governing body, FIFA, have conducted the draw for the Inter-Confederation playoffs for the 2026 FIFA World Cup earlier today in Zurich. The DR Congo knocked out the Super Eagles for a spot in the Six Nations playoffs in March next year. Will face the winner between New Caledonia, bidding to make a first appearance at the World Cup finals, versus Jamaica. Bolivia will play Suriname, yet another country seeking a first ever appearance, with the victor going on to a winner-takes-all against Iraq. Two teams will advance from the Inter-Confederation playoffs to the expanded 48-team World Cup to be hosted by USA, Canada, and Mexico. Thousands of people took to the streets to welcome the Curaçao national team, which made history by becoming the smallest nation to qualify for a World Cup after securing its place in the 2026 edition. Curaçao fans dressed in team shirts and waving national flags turned out in large number to celebrate with the team as players and coaching staff danced on stage, joined by their Prime Minister. Curaçao, a tiny Caribbean island country, is an autonomous territory of about 156,000 people within the Kingdom of the Netherlands. And Justice Robert J. has ruled that former F1 driver Felipe Massa's £64 million claim against Formula One, its governing body, the FIA, and the sport's former Supremo, Bernie Ecclestone, can go to trial. At the center of the trial will be Lewis Hamilton's first Formula One world title in 2008, with Brazilian driver Massa claiming he was the rightful winner of the championship. Massa lost the title by a point after Nelson Piquet Jr. deliberately crashed at the Singapore race. That sports is back to you, Ad.
Thank you, Chris. And the main news again. A federal high court has sentenced Nnamdi Kanu to life imprisonment on terrorism charges and ordered that he be kept in protective custody anywhere in the country. Barely 48 hours after the attack on the Ruku community, bandits have attacked another community in Kwara, abducting 4 rice farmers. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Anne Nwawadu. Good night.